Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights you need. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's, well, it's really reshaping global security right now: defense spending. Did you know that in 2024, worldwide military expenditure hit a staggering $2.718 trillion? That's the steepest year-on-year rise since the Cold War ended. And right at the heart of this surge, Europe. They led the charge with an astonishing 17% increase.
Yeah, up to $693 billion. That's its highest level of defense spending in, well, decades. And what's truly remarkable here isn't just the sheer scale of those numbers. It's a profound strategic shift they represent. We're talking about a fundamental reevaluation of security.
Absolutely. So today we're taking a deep dive into what's driving this monumental rearmament. We're going to focus specifically on Europe's pretty sophisticated defense innovation ecosystems.
That's the plan. We want to unpack these European models, the initiatives, the funding mechanisms, the collaborations that are helping Europe forge its own path towards strategic autonomy.
Exactly. And in doing that, we aim to extract some crucial lessons, maybe some exciting opportunities for nations like India, which, as you know, is navigating its own path towards defense modernization and self-reliance.
So by the end of this, you should gain a clear understanding of the institutional frameworks, the innovative funding approaches, and the collaboration pathways that aren't just changing Europe, but are actually reshaping global security as a whole.
And to bring you these insights, we've pulled together a rich stack of sources.
Yeah, we've got comprehensive analyses of the spending trends, detailed reports on EU initiatives like the European Defense Fund, EDF, and the EU Defense Innovation Scheme, EUDIS, plus insights into organizations like OCCAR, the European Defense Agency, and expert assessments looking specifically at Indo-European defense cooperation.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture again. Europe's military spending has just soared. This isn't just a minor adjustment. It feels like an extraordinary rearmament.
It really does. As we said, 2024 European regional expenditure, and that includes Russia, climbed to $693 billion. That's a massive 17% jump from 2023. It made Europe the largest single contributor to the overall global increase. It's quite something.
So what's behind this? What are the strategic drivers for such a dramatic shift?
Well, you have to look at a few key things. First, the geopolitical shocks. They're undeniable catalysts. The Russian annexation of Crimea back in 2014, and then the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. These fundamentally altered Europe's security perception.
And Ukraine itself, the numbers there are just staggering.
Absolutely. Ukraine saw its military spending grow about 2.9% year-on-year, hitting $64.7 billion in 2024. That represents an extraordinary 34% of its GDP. 34%. That's the highest military burden globally.
Wow, that really puts the situation into sharp perspective. And beyond the direct conflict, we're also seeing the impact of alliance commitments, right? NATO's 2% target.
Definitely. That NATO guideline for members to spend 2% of their GDP on defense, which was formalized back in 2014, it's gained significant momentum. By 2024, you had 23 out of 32 NATO members meeting that target.
23, that's a huge increase from... what was it in 2014?
Just 3 countries back then, so a massive jump. Poland, for instance, now leads European NATO members. They're dedicating 4.2% of their GDP to defense. They've increased their budget by over 50% just since 2022.
Which leads us, I suppose, to this idea of strategic autonomy.
Exactly. There's this growing recognition across Europe that, relying solely on U.S. security guarantees might not be enough for their long-term interests. It feels like an awakening driving this concerted effort to modernize forces that were perhaps underfunded and achieve greater European self-reliance in defense.
It's a fundamental shift in thinking.
It really is.
And you see it in the spending. Germany, for example, they emerged as Europe's largest defense spender in 2024, first time since reunification.
Yeah.
They allocated $88.5 billion. That's about 1.9% of their GDP.
And a 28% increase from 2023 alone, mostly fueled by that huge $100 billion special defense fund they set up.
And it's not just individual countries acting alone. The EU itself is moving.
Right. The EU presented its Rearm Europe plan back in March 2025. The aim, to unlock over $800 billion in defense spending by 2029. And this includes some pretty crucial measures, like activating the National Escape Clause of the Stability and Growth Pact.
Which basically gives member states more wiggle room on budgets for defense, right?
Precisely. It allows increased fiscal flexibility. And they also launched the $150 billion Security Action for Europe Safe Loan Instrument. That's for joint procurement. And it became operational in July 2025. It's a very comprehensive, multi-level approach.
So, okay, it's clear Europe is spending more, a lot more. But how are they making sure that money actually translates into, truly cutting-edge capabilities? It seems it's about a smarter, more integrated approach to defense innovation, and that's driven by several key institutions. Let's start with the European Defense Agency, the EDA.
Okay, the EDA. Established back in 2004. Its core mission is basically to help EU member states improve their military capabilities, specifically for Europe's security and defense policy. And it operates under this comprehensive strategic framework. Think of it like a blueprint that integrates different functional areas using 4 core pillars.
Right, 4 pillars. So how does that work? What's the first one?
The first is the Capability Development Plan, or CDP. This acts as the strategic driver. It defines future capability needs short, medium, long term. It guides R&T investment and armaments cooperation. Crucially, it focuses on the types of capabilities needed, things like countermand pads or advanced network operations, not just, counting tanks or planes.
Got it. So it sets the direction. What's Pillar 2?
Pillar 2 is the European Defense R&T Research and Technology Strategy. We call this the Technology Pillar. It mapped out which key technologies to invest in and how to implement them using roadmaps and action plans. It really emphasizes disruptive technologies, think cyber, UAV swarms, directed energy.
And are there targets attached to that?
Yes, ambitious ones. The strategy targets 2% of all defense spending for R&T, with 20% of that spending done collaboratively. That collaborative piece is vital for efficiency.
Okay, makes sense. And Pillar 3?
That's the European Armaments Cooperation Strategy. Think of it as the programs and procurement pillar. This is all about promoting effective European cooperation on buying equipment. The goal is quicker, more cost-effective development and acquisition. It really pushes for member states to harmonize their requirements early on, trying to reduce that costly duplication of effort.
And the final one, Pillar 4?
That's the European Defense Technological and Industrial Base Strategy, or EDT, the industry pillar. This outlines a vision for a European defense industry that's capability-driven, competitive, more integrated, less duplicative. It encourages specialization, setting up centers of excellence, and importantly, it explicitly highlights the vital role of SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises.
Why the focus on SMEs?
Because of their flexibility and their capacity to innovate. They're often where the new ideas come from.
Okay, so the EDA sets the strategic compass, but strategy needs fuel. How is Europe actually funding these big collaborations and developments?
Right, that's where the European Defense Fund, or EDF, comes in. The EDF is the European Commission's main tool, its primary instrument, to support R&D in defense. It promotes cooperation, boosts capability development, and helps EU companies develop cutting-edge, interoperable defense tech.
And the budget for this?
For the 2021-2027 period, it's substantial, nearly $7.3 billion. A good chunk, $2.7 billion, is for collaborative research, and even more, $5.3 billion, for collaborative capability development projects.
Are there incentives built in to encourage, say, those SMEs you just mentioned?
Absolutely. Financial support is mostly through grants, and they can cover up to 100% of eligible costs. But there's also a bonus system for projects that involve SMEs or mid-caps. Those are medium-sized companies, and also projects linked to PESCO.
PESCO being?
Permanent Structured Cooperation. That's the EU's framework for more ambitious, more binding military cooperation among willing member states. Generally, applying for EDF funding needs a consortium, at least 3 entities from 3 member states or associated countries like Norway.
But there's flexibility.
Yes. For calls specifically targeting disruptive technologies, they allow smaller consortia, just 2 entities from 2 member states. It shows they want to be agile for cutting-edge stuff.
Okay, so EDF provides strategy, EDF provides funding, but how do these massive multinational projects actually get built and managed day to day?
That's where an organization like OCCAR comes into play, the Organization for Joint Armament Cooperation. OCCAR focuses specifically on managing complex cooperative defense equipment programs right through their entire lifespan. Think projects like the Airbus A400M transport plane or the Eurofighter Tiger attack helicopter.
And who's involved in ICOR?
Its members include Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK. A really key feature is its global balance concept. It's a flexible approach to industrial work share.
What does that mean in practice? How is it different?
Well, it moves away from the really rigid just retour principle. That's where each nation's industrial work share must strictly equal its government's cost share on every single program. Instead, OCCAR aims for an overall balance across multiple programs and over several years, work share versus cost share.
That sounds much more practical. Why is that better?
It fosters long-term trust and efficiency. It avoids handcuffing projects just to meet strict national quotas on every single component. It ensures everyone has a stake in the collective success over the long haul.
Clever. And what about risk? These big projects must be inherently risky.
Hugely risky. And OCCAR demonstrates that managing that risk isn't just about avoiding failure, it's actually a strategic imperative. It enables them to take on bolder, more complex projects. They treat risk management as integral to their core business. It's a top-down, proactive approach. Regular reviews, using analytical techniques like three-point estimates, Monte Carlo simulations. They even have dedicated corporate software for it. And crucially, they build risk management requirements and reporting duties right into the contracts as standard clauses. It's proactive, not reactive.
This all sounds very robust for the big players and major programs, but what about innovation from the ground up, those SMEs and startups you mentioned?
That's precisely where the EU Defense Innovation Scheme, or EUDIS, fits in. This is really Europe's focused effort on fostering that ground-up innovation. It's enabled by the EDF, but it's specifically designed to lower the entry barriers for SMEs, for startups, other non-traditional players in the defense ecosystem.
So what's the goal of EUDIS?
The overall goal is to support these innovators throughout their entire development cycle, help them mature their ideas, scale up their businesses, demonstrate the use case, grow, and actually enter the market successfully. There's a real focus on both technological readiness and market maturity.
That sounds ambitious. What kind of tangible support does EUDIS actually provide? Is it just grants?
Oh no, it's much more than just grants. EUDIS offers a whole suite of instruments, a real toolkit. There are tailored accelerator programs, like an 8-month support scheme for startups providing coaching, networking, even seed financing vouchers. There's business coaching for SME beneficiaries from all EDF calls. There's a defense equity facility to help defense tech companies access private investment.
So it's connecting them with money and expertise. What else?
They support innovation test hubs. These allow larger consortiums to distribute cascade funding smaller grants down to SMEs. They host Europe-wide hackathons, often focused on real-world problems like supporting Ukraine. They run technological challenges to test and compare new solutions. And they have spin-in calls specifically designed to encourage migration of results from civilian EU research programs into defense, fostering that dual-use innovation.
That sounds incredibly comprehensive. It's not just funding, it's building an entire support structure.
Exactly. And EUDIS measures represent a significant chunk of the EDF budget, 31%, or about $336.6 million in the 2025 budget alone. It's managed directly by the Commission's DG DFIs, ensuring strategic alignment. And interestingly, Ukrainian entities are also eligible for EUDIS acceleration support. Shows its relevance.
Okay, so we've painted a detailed picture of Europe's approach. Now let's bring it back to our listener. Why does all this matter, especially if you're looking at India's own defense modernization journey? India is clearly on a significant path towards indigenization, towards Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense. Europe's experiences seem to offer valuable blueprints, maybe some warnings too.
Absolutely. Let's look at institutional architecture first. Europe's practice, like the EDA's Capability Development Plan for harmonizing requirements, that provides a model for looking ahead, for strategic foresight.
So how could India apply that?
Well, India could perhaps establish something like an Indian Defense Cooperation Agency, mirroring the EDA model. Its job would be to coordinate a national capability development plan, aligning the armed services, academia, and industry, and where Europe has OCCAR managing complex joint programs.
India could adopt a similar lead agency program management model.
Exactly. For major joint defense projects, it could streamline procurement, manage in-service support with really clear roles and unified command, cut through some of the bureaucracy.
Okay, that makes sense for structure. Now, what about empowering SMEs and the funding side? Europe seems very focused here with EDF incentives and EUDIS.
They really are. And India already has a strong foundation with initiatives like IDEX Innovations for Defense Excellence.
Right. IDEX offers grants up to 1.5 crore and even more, up to 10 crore under IDEX Prime. And there's the ADITI scheme too.
Yes. ADDI focuses on deep tech with grants up to 25 crore. These are excellent initiatives. The European experience suggests how these could potentially be amplified, maybe with a larger India Defense Fund, modeled somewhat on the EDF, offering, say, 100% grants for collaborative R&D, maybe up to 80% co-financing for prototypes, and definitely including dedicated SME bonus incentives and SME-specific calls.
And what about focusing on cutting-edge tech?
Critical. Perhaps reserving 5–10% of this potential IDF budget specifically for dual-use emerging technologies, AI, quantum, advanced materials, similar to how the EDF has a set aside for disruptive tech. You could even imagine perhaps an Indo-European defense accelerator, co-funded by India's IDF and Europe's EDF, offering seed capital, mentorship, market access for dual-use startups in key areas like AI, cyber, space.
That's an interesting idea for collaboration. Speaking of which, let's talk collaboration frameworks and dual-use technologies. Europe leverages civilian innovation quite effectively.
Yes, what's fascinating is how the EDF explicitly promotes cooperation across different types of organizations, companies big and small, research actors. And Europe uses integrated funding mechanisms, like Horizon Europe for civilian research, allowing innovations to spill over into defense, and vice versa. The European Innovation Council even invests in dual-use startups now.
How could India replicate that synergy?
India could perhaps form tripartite centers of excellence. Imagine linking DRDO labs, military commands, and premier technical institutes like the IITs or NITs. They could co-fund dual-use projects, foster those crucial interdisciplinary skills. And another practical step, standardizing cross-border consortia agreements, clear rules on IP sharing, export controls. That would make forming Indo-European industrial teams much faster, leveraging India's fantastic human capital base.
Good point. Now, the perennial challenge, procurement and risk management. Always tricky in defense.
Always. OGR's model for coordinated procurement, and especially its through-life management approach where risk management is integral, that's highly instructive.
So the lesson for India is?
Streamline procurement processes, definitely. But also foster a more risk-tolerant innovation culture. One that embraces experimentation, accepts that not everything will work first time, and integrates structured risk management, clear ownership, analytical tools make those standard clauses in defense contracts. Move from just avoiding risk to strategically managing it for success.
Okay, let's pause and take stock of India's current defense landscape. What are the core challenges and opportunities viewed through this European lens?
Well, the budget is significant. For 2025-26, it's 6.81 lakh crore, roughly $82 billion. That's about 13.45% of total union expenditure. India was the fourth largest military spender globally in 2023. However, spending remains around 1.9% of projected GDP.
And R&D investment compared to Europe.
Europe as a whole allocates more specifically to defense R&D. India's overall R&D spending across all sectors is still around 0.6% of GDP, which is quite a bit lower than major economies, though DRDO's allocation has increased significantly.
And what about those dependency and quality issues that often get mentioned?
Unfortunately, they remain real challenges. India is still the world's second-largest arms importer for the 2020-2024 period, only behind Ukraine right now. Sources consistently highlight systemic hurdles that lower R&D investment, over-reliance on imported components sometimes, bureaucratic delays, and yes, quality control issues. We've seen examples like the long-running Kaveri engine program issues, unfortunate Dhruv helicopter crashes, the Tejas fighter crash in March 2024. These things underscore the need for robust systems and quality assurance.
So, given these challenges, how can India effectively measure the impact of its modernization efforts? How do you know if things are working?
Good question. India could implement a multi-level performance management system using clear key performance indicators, KPIs, and key result areas, KRAs. Things like innovation output, how many startups funded, funding effectiveness, are R&D grants actually being used well, procurement speed, time from prototype to contract, and critically, end-user satisfaction. Are the armed forces happy with the kit? This gives you objective, data-driven ways to measure progress and hold actors accountable.
Right. Finally, let's look at the potential for Indo-European cooperation. This seems like a really promising area.
It absolutely is. India and the EU already have a regular maritime security dialogue. They've done joint naval exercises, and they're actively working towards a defense and security partnership, similar to the ones the EU has with Japan and South Korea. There have even been discussions about India potentially participating in PESCO defense projects for co-production technology transfer.
And beyond these bilateral steps, what about multilateral opportunities?
Enhanced cooperation under initiatives like the EDF could potentially include India down the line. That would allow for systematic collaboration on really cutting-edge military technologies, AI-enhanced combat, cyber defense, space security. Strategically, it's a potential win-win. It strengthens the EU's security presence in the Indo-Pacific, a key region for them. And for India, it offers access to advanced European military tech, supporting that goal of reducing dependence on traditional suppliers. It fits the Atmanirbhar push.
What a journey we've taken today. We've navigated through Europe's really impressive defense spending surge, explored its complex and quite cutting-edge innovation ecosystem, from the strategic vision of the EDA all the way down to the very practical support EUDIS offers startups.
And we've seen the direct lessons and I think exciting synergy opportunities this presents for India as it pushes forward with its own ambitious defense modernization.
Yeah, it really feels like the European experience demonstrates that achieving strategic autonomy isn't just about spending more money.
Not at all.
Sure.
It's about integrating all the diverse players, governments, big industry, research labs, small startups. It's about fostering a genuine culture of innovation and meticulously managing that entire development cycle from planning what you need right through to getting it into service and supporting it. It's a truly holistic approach. It builds real long-term resilience.
So, as nations everywhere reassess their security needs, investing heavily in advanced defense capabilities, maybe the critical question isn't just how much they spend.
But how they collaborate and innovate.
Exactly. And here's a final thought. What if fostering greater strategic autonomy for one region, like Europe, could paradoxically unlock more collaborative innovation pathways for global partners, like India? Could it create a kind of network of shared security and technological advancement that actually benefits us all? Something to think about. That's all for this deep dive.